Welcome to the Blueprint Breakers podcast. What is a blueprint breaker? If you live your life outside the typical traditional lifestyle blueprint, you are a blueprint breaker. We are here to start a conversation, to assemble resources, and to build a community. This podcast is for empowered women in midlife and beyond who are preparing for a powerful next era of life. My name is Amy A. Palmer. I am your host and facilitator for our conversations. Sit back, relax, enjoy the show. To stay connected, up to date, and to receive all of our free resources and gifts along the way, join us at community.blueprintbreakers.com. I want to talk about the topic of interconnectedness that's been coming up a lot for me recently. And I wanted to share a little bit of my experience around that. It's happened in three different ways in three different areas. The first around my recent conversation and interview with a friend, colleague, Shavara Oren. We had an amazing conversation last week, and the theme of interconnectedness definitely came up in our conversation. One of my favorite quotes of what she said was talking about how we are inexplicably bound. And I thought that was so right on. And it hit me because it's a theme and a fact that I've been thinking a lot about recent days, weeks, months, etc. The second instance of interconnectedness coming up for me is when I went to go see the movie Origin. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that. And then lastly, the other way is through what I see online regarding February as Black History Month and everything that goes on around that. So those are the three different areas that I want to talk about and how this keeps hitting me. And so I'm trying to connect the dots for myself as others are connecting dots for me. So first, regarding my conversation with Shavara, it was an absolute privilege to be able to speak with her. What strikes me about Shavara is that she has experienced very deep trauma in her life in a variety of ways, and also accomplished amazing things. Like, she has been able to let her experiences feed who she is. And so based on everything, her history, her experiences, her traumas, her joys, her happinesses, like the passions, all of that. She has all of that feed who she is. And then she shows up full person, Shavara Oren, to give and to impact and to connect and to help and to make things better, regardless of what all those different ingredients are that went into that. And she just has this way with grace and dignity of doing that. That struck me to my core. And I keep re-listening to her stories. If you haven't listened to the episode, I highly recommend going back. One of the most powerful podcast episodes I've done, because I just love to listen to her perspective on how she has taken these experiences and learned from them, taken the key pieces out of it, and bringing it back to the world. But she's able to step back and look at history, look at all of her histories and her experiences. And now as she's out and she's traveling and really getting connected to other cultures, she's connecting the dots of all these different types of people's experiences. And she's able to bring it together to be able to emphasize the commonality of the human experience. And seemingly without a lot of judgment, I'm sure she has her moments, but without a lot of judgment, like, she's able to look at who's doing what to whom. And while that may conjure up a lot of feelings and a lot of opinions, she's still able to navigate what potential solutions are, what potential ways to connect are. And I just felt that what she had to share was such a great example for all the rest of us, that we need to be able to stop having so much judgment and deep feelings and criticisms and morality judgments and all of that about all these different things that are happening, and step back for a moment and just look at things through the lens of a human being. Yeah, so my conversation with Shavara has stayed with me, will continue to stay with me. Then it was validated, all those feelings, all those thoughts I was having, all the dots I was putting together after Shavara put the dots together for me. I went to go see the movie Origin because I had heard that it was a transformative experience, but I didn't know, I knew nothing about it other than the fact that Ava DuVernay was the director. That's the only thing that I knew about the movie. But I knew that I was in the mood that day to have a transformative experience, so I went. And when I tell you I sobbed at many places throughout the movie, but particularly at the end, because it turns out that the movie Origin, in case you don't know, if you're like me, who didn't check it out first, it's about the author, Isabel Wilkerson, the author who wrote the book Caste, which I heard a ton about a few years back, but haven't read it yet, although it's now in my queue to read. But it's about Isabel and her experience writing the book Caste, including the concepts in Caste. And so I'm gonna try to summarize this in the most simple way. I'm gonna miss things for sure. But basically, the book Caste sets out to show us how interconnected we all are throughout history. And she goes ahead and she connects Nazi Germany, Hitler and the Holocaust. She's able to connect that to Black slavery in America and that time in our history, to the caste system in India, to a more recent incident here in America in 2012 when Trayvon Martin was murdered. And I don't believe Martin's murder is covered in the book, but it's connected in the movie. And I believe that this movie Origin is something that every one of us needs to see. And teenagers in school need to see it. College students need to see it. We need to see this as a lesson in how to look at our history and to be able to stop getting all riled up over how facts are presented. Stop covering things up and whitewashing over here and rose-colored glasses over there and, changing the intention. I think it's just a great lesson in how do we step back and look at all aspects of our history, good, bad, ugly, not worrying about pointing fingers or placing blame or whatever, but let's just looking at it and learning from it and making those connections. The movie covers racism and it also covers caste system. And it evoked so much emotion in me. I think it's because I wish we could all step back and look at everything and realize that we are interconnected, that we are inexplicably bound, that we are more alike than different, that we have common humanity, and trying to figure out the conflicts and the nuances and the struggles and really doing something to make a difference for the future. That movie has stayed with me. Highly, highly recommend. Everybody needs to see it. Origin. The cast is phenomenal. The direction is phenomenal. The message is the biggest part. The learning in that movie is the most valuable thing. So, highly recommend. That's my second experience of interconnection coming up for me. And then last and certainly not least is the topic of Black History Month in the month of February. The thought triggered for me on February 1st, when Black History Month started on February 1st, which was the same time that I was releasing my podcast episode with Shavara. And as I was working on all the promo materials, I was seeing all this stuff online about Black History Month, which I know it's in February. At the same time, it was also sparking some thought in me. A lot of what I was seeing online in terms of promoting the month and honoring the month and celebrating the month didn't feel sincere or genuine to me. And so then as a result, I said nothing. I certainly did not want to utilize a conversation with a woman who identifies as Black among other identities. I didn't want to use that conversation as some sort of representation that I'm honoring Black History Month. And I've been feeling for the last couple of years, as I got my eyes opened, that Black history is our history. It's also my history. Black history is part of my history. We're all connected. My ancestors were there when everything was happening. My lineage plays a role in Black history, and it's part of all of our history together. So again, the theme of interconnectedness, and I wasn't sure how to speak about that, so I'm speaking about it here, and not the smoothest, most articulate way, but I'm hoping you understand what I mean, that I feel like we have so many opportunities to look at our connection. How are we connected? And how does everything all tie together? What can we learn from it? And how can we use this knowledge and wisdom to come together and really work on making this world a better place? I don't mean to sound cliche, but I think we all really, really desire that right now. Thank you for joining me for today's episode of the Blueprint Breakers podcast, Interconnectedness. Thank you for listening. Please remember to subscribe and follow. And to always be in the loop of what is happening at Blueprint Breakers, sign up at community.blueprintbreakers.com. Have a great week and keep on breaking those blueprints and writing your own.